Tuesday, June 18th, regular school board meeting to order for Hendry County. If you please stand for invocation and pledge. I, Father, who art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and give us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory forever. Amen.
Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like for you to please remain standing. We're going to do a moment of silence for Miss Peggy Baldwin. Miss Baldwin was a beloved teacher, passionate piano player, and devoted family woman. She dedicated 47 years to the Florida education system, touching the lives of countless students and colleagues with her warmth and wisdom. Ms. Baldwin worked for the district between July 1987 and June 2008. Ms. Baldwin, affectionately known to everyone as Peggy, passed away on June 8, 2024. Please pause with me for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Madam Chair, do we have any recognitions this evening?
We do. We have one recognition. And let me tell you, there are people that come into your life and they become one of the most memorable, favorite people that you will ever want to meet. And that, for me, is Miss Melanie Tingram. If you will come on up, please, and let's talk about Miss Melanie.
Oh, man. I had to get another second. Everybody knows I take notes of my cards. I had to get another stack of their notes for Melanie. She's been with us for 34 years. Before that, 3 years of being a sub. She was our route manager for the past 14 years. She has done everything. She has done everybody else's job. When somebody else doesn't want to do a job, you don't have to tell her. She just steps up and does it. You know, just in the last month or so, we were able to hire another gentleman to take or be in Melanie's seat, possibly fill her shoes. But I had to delegate about to 5 other different people of job responsibilities that she took care of. She has been a blessing for all of our students for 37 years. I heard stories about it. I've seen them. When I came here, I don't know, 29 years ago, Melanie was like leaning out of the bus, saying, "Hey, who are you? Where are you from?" And that's how I met her on one of the first days of school. And she used to hand out food. She used to hand out clothes. She went in her pocketbook and handed out money to kids. When appropriate. I mean, but she took care of her kids the whole time, and then we were blessed to have her as a route manager. She just takes care of business. She always says that, you know, I tell her I go in there and I learn my job, and she's like, "We got this, Houston. We got this, Houston." I'm like, "What about this? We're missing 8 drivers today." "I got you, Houston. Don't worry about it." Am I lying? I mean, it's just the relationships she did with her kids, how she deals with the bus drivers, how she works with the bus drivers. She just makes it happen. She pulls a rabbit out of the hat every day. And we're going to be really sad to lose her. She's already talked about, "When can I come back to Houston?" And I said, "Tomorrow." Well, I think we're losing her next Thursday. But, you know, we're going to pull her back in. She's promised me she's not going to change her cell phone number. I have it on my, you know, even if I lose my phone, I know it by heart. But Melanie is one of those people that you want on your team every day. You want your fossil. She'll do the job every day. And the most important thing she remembers are kids. That's why we're here. That's why we want to pay for it. It's for our kids, and that's what she has. Her heart is for our kids in every county. So now, thank you.
We are going to miss you so very much. In sincere appreciation and gratitude for 31 years of dedication dedicated service. Your wisdom and commitment to the excellence have inspired many and will be remembered for years to come. We wish you good health, happiness, and continued success in your retirement. There is probably not another person in this world that I would say is irreplaceable, but Melanie Timbrook is irreplaceable. Here, you hold that. Can we move over a little bit to get in front of the board as I'm in, crying tears? Let's get a picture. Thank you.
It was great. You were great.
That is
I thought you also helped with a lot of the bus drivers and parents.
I've known you for minutes.
Lots of moves.
Get the rest.
How old is Kevin right now?
33.
I remember when he was.
Yeah, and I was married, I remember when DC were dating, I said,
That's a long
yeah, I'm getting married. I said, to who? He said, Stephanie Busey, and I said, or Stephanie Snyder, I said, oh, Lord.
Well, I was going to say miss you now, but I remember when you and Timmy were dating, I was still a little girl.
All right, moving on. Madam Assistant Superintendent, do we have any presentations?
We do. Our first presentation is from Sodexo. We're going to welcome Erwin and crew.
Ready to go?
So, good evening, Mr. Chairman, Madam Superintendent, members of the board, Hendry County community. My name is Erwin Evans. I'm with Sodexo. This is my boss, Kevin Neal. My goal tonight is to stand before you and just kind of give you a state of our program as it is here in Hendry County. It's been 9 years that we've been here, so just kind of a rundown. Let's give a couple of snapshots and not take up too much of your time, but just want to share some information with you. So, like I said, we came here in 2015, and we're honored to have been a part of Hendry County for 9 years. Our commitment continues to elevate your school's dining experience through proven efficiencies, fresh, visually appealing food presentation, and exciting promotion. We'll always work in collaboration with you to bring innovative and relevant child nutrition services. We said that the value we bring to Hendry County schools would focus on 3 central themes: people, processes, and community. These pillars uphold and accomplish the district's goal for the food service program. We understand that Hendry County schools food service is about much more than just food. It's about nutrition and its effects on student behavior and achievement. So our first pillar is people. Our team in Hendry County is Hendry County. All of your schools were staffed with citizens of Hendry County. We acquired a team of 74 people with an average wage of $10.49, and we grew it to 90 employees with an average wage of $15.57 per hour. At present, the state of Florida's minimum wage is at $12 an hour, scheduled to increase to $13 as of September 30th. New employees to Sodexo Hendry County schools start at $15 an hour. New employees start with 25 hours per week and an opportunity to grow into more hours and wages. Just a couple of examples of some team members who have grown with the Sodexo Hendry County Schools partnership. This is LaDonna Roberts. LaDonna was a food service worker at LaBelle Middle School. Today, she's our senior area manager, and she's responsible for operations in all of Hendry County schools. LaDonna does a fantastic job. With the exception of my operations manager, Mike Ingles, LaDonna is my right-hand person. This is Maria Vicky Quayle, formerly of LaBelle Middle School. She is also an area manager, and she's our training manager for all of Hendry County schools. Vicky is very detail-oriented. She's very process-oriented, and she's been my a teacher trying to help me learn Spanish. And she does a fantastic job. A couple of other folks who've grown with the program. Patty Gomez, who was once a cashier at LaBelle Elementary. She's been a cafeteria manager at Upper Grove Elementary, and is presently Sodexo's administrative assistant. Ricardo Caniago was a food service worker at Central Elementary. She's not a cafeteria manager at Central Elementary. Carla Herring was a food service worker at Clueston Middle. Now she's the cafeteria manager at Clueston High School. We'll always continue to work diligently to develop, retain, and reward employees. That's going to help move Hendry County's food service to the, Hendry County Schools food service program to the next level. Processes. That's the second pillar of this presentation. Our goal for the district has always been to achieve new levels of financial returns, greater purchasing power, and increased efficiency. This partnership with Sodexo allows Hendry County School District to concentrate on the prime objective, and that is educating your students for future successes. And our program is growing. And so just to kind of give you a couple snapshots of where we've been and where we were. We've increased variety and diversity in the menu mix. We've moved students from a la carte choices to reimbursable meals. We provided quick and easy access to meals and a la carte offerings with a redesigned product placement. And we've done this with our marketing concepts of Clubhouse, which is at the elementary level, Foodie, that's at the middle school level, and Taste Forward, which of course is at the high school level. And so just a couple snapshots just to kind of show you where we were, where we are now. Here's breakfast. Your numbers on the left represents the 2024-2015 school year. That was the year before Sodexo came. And on the right is where we are as of April 30th this year. Same thing with lunches. Next slide is a la carte sales. The a la carte sales shows a decrease in sales. However, like I explained before, we've managed to get kids from the a la carte sales and having them to purchase, consume reimbursable meals, something that's much more, it's better for the kids, it's also better for the district from a financial standpoint. Teacher meals, something that's had a huge increase. It's a big jump from 2014-15 to 23-24. Revenues, we've gone from 3.1 million in 2014-2015 to 4.9 million as of 23-24. A fund balance, your fund balance as of the 2014-2015 school year was 1.5 million. Now it sits at about 3.9 million, and that's a figure from the 22-23 year. I didn't have access to the 23-24 year, but you can see it's grown. So, the community, the last part of this pillar. Supporting Hendry County community is very important to us. We understand how Hendry County community plays an active role in student achievement and well-being. And we've demonstrated that philosophy through summer feeding, local celebrations, student engagement, community emergencies, and catering services. So, and also employee recognition. And so that is the end of our presentation. And again, this is just kind of just kind of wanted to give you guys a snapshot of the state of the program as to where we are and coming for you. And I apologize, I should have done this a month ago. If you notice, I'm wearing glasses, so my old age, I had the experience of dealing with a detached retina. So as I become 60 years old, I'm on the path of making my wife very well off because I'm worth more money away from her than with her. So she's gonna be good to go. So that's it. So any questions, comments? Anybody?
Mr. Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
So I wanted to say I had my notes here, and I had my 3 questions that
Sure.
I wanted to know. Lunches served annually, Olive Heart sales, and the teacher meals. So thank you for providing that quantifiable data there.
Yes, ma'am. Anytime.
When I first saw the narrative, I was like, oh, I know Erwin did not come here with just the narrative for me. I need some numbers. So I appreciate that.
Somebody told me they looked at it.
Show me the numbers.
Amen.
So my next question is, so when we made the choice to go to Sodexo in 2014, 2015, one of the things I did was I showed up to see what the current level of food and service was to the kids. I wrote a whole piece on it in my blog, made a whole lot of people mad, but I don't regret doing it. But I went and stood in line for the reimbursable lunch, timed how long it was, went through, took a picture of what I got out of line and sat there and tried everything on the plate if it wasn't bulky. And if I did that in the beginning of next year, would I have a good experience?
Absolutely. That's our commitment. Sodexo, that's my commitment. It's
I'm just, that's my nice way of saying it's gonna happen.
Amen.
And so I want you to, I just want to ensure that
Sure.
we'll have something good to put on the blog.
Absolutely.
All right, I appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Mr. Governor.
I have a couple of questions. I'm glad to see the decrease in a la carte. I think that if kids come in with their money and they buy ice cream and so forth, that you've moved that to the reimbursables. I think they're eating better because of that, so I think that's good. I also like, that was a big push for me, was the teacher meals. Sure. I hear almost no complaints about it anymore, and people say positive things, which is a change from a few years ago. So, I think there's some good things going on. I'd like you to explain the summer feeding program and how that's going as long as we're here, because we are one of the poorest counties in this state. You know that, and you've heard me say that every meeting you've ever been to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So tell me, I know we're doing it a little differently this year with satellite meals and so forth. Could you tell me how that's
Well,
progressing?
we're actually off to a very good start. The buses have been a huge help. I'm gonna grab my water. Having the buses help us get meals to kids in the very rural areas has been a big help to us. I sent Mr. Swindle an email and with some data, and I compared it last year first week versus this year first week, and I don't remember the email, but just off the top of my head, I think we're up like 80% or something like that. Even if you took the number of days in the first week, last year I think it was only like 3 days. This year was 4 or 5. Even if you took the average number of meals that we serve per day, it's still up about 60%. So we're off to a great start. And as of that first week, we hadn't even started the pack out meals. And what we're doing for the kids is that Monday through Thursday, excuse me, let me make it clear. Monday through Wednesday, they can come, they can get a breakfast, and they can get a lunch. Then on Thursdays, they can get a breakfast and a lunch on Thursday, but they also take home a breakfast and a lunch for Friday as well. So that has been a huge help to us. And I echo what you said, Mr. Chairman. Like, I did a presentation sometime back, and Hendry County is like the 3rd poorest county in the state of Florida. So, we want to do all we can to help that out. And again, the buses have been a huge help to us.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Does the transportation for those summer meal deliveries get charged to the food service program, or it's the transportation department? Food service. Okay.
Any other questions? I think that completes it. Thank you very much. I appreciate your presentation.
Thank you. Anytime. I'm gonna let you take all this.
Sorry I interrupted you earlier.
No, you're fine, you're fine. Just don't charge it to food service.
All right, Madam Assistant Chair, do we have any other
We
presentations?
most certainly do. I believe this might be the very last presentation from Ms. Cox, but we do have a preliminary budget presentation. Once she gets set up.
At least a little bit. After abandonment.
Do you want me to mirror this or? It's do you want it to show the same thing on here or do you want to just move it over? Okay. Oh no, that's fine. You just change this to and it will show both.
Okay, well, good evening, Dr. Staley, board members, those joining online, everybody in the room. I'm excited to be here. You know, I always enjoy talking about the budget. So today's presentation is just the kickstart to the budget season that we've been in. It'll give you a preliminary overview of our FTE projections, where we're going with the budget, and then as we get into the tentative and final budgets, a lot more information will be coming forward. So our budget, the FEFP budget specifically, is always built on our FTE projections. So this slide shows our unweighted FTE from fiscal year 19-20 to our projection for 24-25. You can see that 24-25, we did build in a projection of about 200 FTE. And you may be thinking, you know, why, since we only had a growth of about 15 this year. But in the forecast modeling, we always want to project high. And so we try to make it as reasonable as possible, but still project high, because what happens if we don't is if the state doesn't appropriate enough money and the kids show up, we don't get the money for them. So we'd rather project high, hold some money back in reserves in case they don't show up, and that way if they do, we know they're funded. So you can see from like 2021, 22, 23, we were on this like steady increase of like 150 to 200 students per year. And then this year it really slowed down. We had a small bit of growth. And this year we kind of saw that same thing. Last year, or in this current year, 23-24, we projected like 7,390 or 7,360 kids or something like that. We didn't meet that projection, right? We grew a little bit, but we didn't meet the projection. And so we didn't get that funding from the state, which we were prepared to do. So a big picture general fund look is that in the FEFP we saw the base student allocation increase by $191.25. It went up to almost $5,331. But a reminder is that in this current year, the state had repealed several categoricals like the reading, instructional materials, et cetera, and they lumped that into the BSA. So whereas those were individual categorical line items with their own specific funding, they now got lumped into the BSA. So that's important to remember, because we still have to fund all these items just now out of the BSA. So this year the state also moved to the comparable wage factor. We had the district cost differential, DCD, that now became the comparable wage factor, and that was a huge benefit to Hendry. When we operated under the DCD, we had a value of less than 1, which essentially means you would get less than 100% of the BSA dollars. So we got moved to comparable wage factor, and because we are a fiscally constrained county, we got the additional 2.77%. So we went from, let's say, 0.9635 to 1.0277. So it gives us a little bit more money on top of the BSA, right? The $191 increase becomes $196.55 for us. It'll be important in the years going forward to track our fiscally constrained status, because once we hit the $5 billion mark in our taxable value, we will lose that status. So we will go to a flat 1 comparable wage factor. We will no longer get the 1.0277. So just something to keep an eye on, because we have been getting pretty close to that $5 billion mark, and I'll show you where our taxable value is at for next year in an upcoming slide. Another important thing to point out is that the classroom teacher and other instructional personnel salary increase, formerly known as TSIA, you'll probably hear me call it TSIA because I just don't know what other acronym to put for that long categorical name now. That is also funded through the BSA, so that $191 increase that we saw, $113 of that was specifically for teacher salary increases. So that's a big piece of that, and a piece that we need to point out because that's not money that we can just do whatever we want. We have to put it towards instructional salary increases. We saw an increase of almost $200,000 in the educational enrichment allocation, and that's primarily due to our FTE projection increase. Property tax went up 4%. That is the current number that's built into the FEFP. We will have the certified values built into the second calculation of the FEFP on July 19th. And then interest income remains high. You guys have heard me say this. We've been 10 times more interest income than what we've seen in prior years. You know, for example, in fiscal year 22, getting income of $100,000 in the general fund to now over $1 million. So just another piece of information that we have to be cognizant about as we move forward and keep an eye on what the interest rates do. You know, when the feds hit their target of combating inflation, those will possibly start to come down. No indication of that happening soon, but just something we have to keep in mind as we move forward in our budget. So very high level view.
Ms. Cox, before you proceed, I want to ask you a question. With our fiscally constrained status, we have to, if we hit that $5 billion on our taxable value, say we've got $5,100,000, that's where we end up. We're going to just go ahead and lose that fiscally constrained money that just goes away?
Yeah, from my understanding, there's a year lag in it, right? Because for planning purposes, so let's say next year we went above $5 billion, we'd still get the 1.0277 comparable wage factor. The following year, we would need to anticipate going down to 1.
And that, you know, so if it was just a mild increase over the $5 billion, that would be pretty detrimental for us?
Yes.
Okay. Make sure I was clear.
Yeah, it equates to this year about $5 per student, but multiply that by 7,300 students, you know, it can add up pretty quickly. Any other questions before I move on? Okay. So this is a very high level view of the general fund, just simply comparing revenue increases or decreases to expenditure increases or decreases. The negatives for expenditures mean, you know, a decrease of the revenues, right? So our total increase in revenues is almost $5.7 million, and then our net increase or decrease from that, we have an increased cost of almost $5.4 million. So most of our new revenue is already obligated, left us a surplus of $304,000. And it's important because we talk about the unassigned budget a lot. You know, we have the unassigned, restricted, and those are two very different pots of money. So this is combining both of those pots. So it's important to remember that when we look at this because our restricted funds are really where we've seen a lot of surplus money. Here's a breakdown of the taxable values. You can see that in 2024 where we're about $4.5 billion. We got the preliminary taxable values from the property appraiser at the very end of May. It has a 4.2% increase, right? So in 2025, in that table that you see on the slide, that's the number in the FEFP, and that's the number we budget at this time until we get that second calc in July. So we anticipate when we get that second calc, it'll be closer to that 4.2% increase. Really the only benefit that we get out of that is through the discretionary millage, and that's increased our revenues almost $122,000 there. Here's our general fund ending unassigned fund balance. This is the history of it. You know, last year we had a significantly high fund balance, and I've talked a lot about why that is with indirect cost revenues from ESSER, the money we recouped out of ESSER into the general fund, high interest rates, high property tax values. You know, we've been in these very prosperous times. We knew this year with ESSER funding ending, we knew there would be a little bit of a fiscal cliff. We're kind
kind of seeing it, as indicated with the property tax values, whereas we were seeing 25, 18+% increases in the past year, things are slowing down. Our unassigned fund balance is going to reflect that. So in the current year, we're projecting about an $18 million ending unassigned fund balance. And then when you add DAOF into that, because their funds will carry over as well, it could increase that number. So why do we have a reserve or fund balance? I throw this slide in all my presentations, right? So 3% is required by Florida statute, 6% is in our board policy, but aside from those requirements, we need funds in our reserve, right? I'll use reserve and unassigned fund balance interchangeably, but we have to have it for FTE shortfalls, right? That happened this year where we lost over $1 million due to not meeting our FTE projection. But we were prepared for that, right? We had the money set aside in case that didn't happen. The FEFP is lagged, so we won't get our final budget from the state, our final this year's budget from the state until December or January of next year. So we have to kind of take into consideration what might come down when those final calculations come out. Additional requests come out throughout the year, changes in private school scholarships, and really now it's just universal scholarships, homeschool, private school scholarships. Those numbers have been increasing significantly, especially in the current year. We can just anticipate that to continue to happen. And I think even more so, just revenue sharing with the private schools needs to be on our radar, whether it's sharing of general fund dollars, sharing of capital dollars. You can ensure those kind of things are going to be coming down the pike in the next couple of years. And then, of course, any unanticipated, unbudgeted items that we have, emergencies, inflation, hopefully no natural disasters, but, we have to be prepared for those things. And the minimum 6%, board requirement is not a lot. It's about $4 million. So when you take into consideration easily losing $1 million for not meeting an FTE projection, those kind of things, that money just can quickly be depleted. We can never go talking about our budget without talking about Digital Academy of Florida. They're a large piece of our budget, making up almost 50% of our FTE. So here's just some information about them. Their FTE projection is about 38% of our total FTE. The Hendry FES number at 8137 FTE. So 38% of our FTE and 30% of our budget. We do collect a 7.6% admin fee from them, and we anticipate that will be an increase of about $123,000 from the current year, assuming they meet their FTE projection as well, right? This current year, they had projected like 6,000 students. They're at 5,200, right? So they have a huge impact on the general fund budget, especially when they start losing kids. It affects that admin fee that we're collecting, and that's just another reason why we need to have money in our reserve to cushion those blows if they were to happen.
And that includes, on DAOF, that includes kids that don't complete, right?
Yes, the budget will include kids that do not complete, and then it doesn't get trued up until we get the final calculation. We do only fund them at 95% of their budget, so we do always hold money back for anticipating that will happen. Capital funds, so with that 4.2% increase in the property taxable value, it'll generate about $6.8 million, almost $300,000 more in the current year. We're going to have special facilities funding in fiscal year 25. When you see the tentative and final budget books, the special facilities funding will have its own fund within those books, and then we will have a repayment that is required from capital millage, possibly sales tax. Right, we're kind of waiting to see what that payback requirement is and how we will fund it, but it'll be important to protect our capital dollars as much as possible going forward in anticipation of that multi-year repayment. And then we have our sales tax anticipated at almost $3.4 million next year. And when you guys get the tentative and final budget books, you'll get the 5-year capital plan so you can see how those dollars are specifically being allocated. There's a plan specific to our capital millage, and then the plan is specific to sales tax. Here is some information just on where we're at with the ESSER 3 or American Rescue Plan funds. Those are coming to an end in November officially, so staff have been working hard to make sure they get spent. We've
wrapped up all the positions that were flooded out of those. They've either, been eliminated, not that staff were fired, there's plenty of vacancies for staff to be absorbed in, or we did sustain the MTSS coordinators. But this is just to give you some information on where we're at with ARP. You can see some of the grants have a small percentage spent, like 25, 38%. But we knew with summer school being as broad as it was in this final year that a lot of those would get spent out with summer school. And once those expenditures hit the budget.
Why are we only spending 38% of our high impact reading budget and
If I recall,
targeted math and STEM 31%?
I believe those are ones that summer school will be coming out of this year.
Okay.
Yes, yes. A large portion of summer school is going to eat up all those remaining balances. Sorry, wrong way. So our next steps and timelines, just finance continues to build the fiscal year 25 budget. We're anticipating the release of the FEFP second calc on July 29th, so we get those certified taxable values, can finalize our general fund budget, produce the tentative budget, which by law is due to you all on July 24th, so you can look forward to having the book in your hands prior to the tentative budget hearing on July 29th, which is on a Monday, just due to the strict trim requirements of advertising. It has to be held on that Monday, and then we'll have the final budget and AFR approval on September 3rd. Do you have any questions?
Maybe just a couple.
Okay.
We lost some funding due to our not meeting our projected goals for our students here in Hendry County. Then we lost some money because the Digital Academy did not make it. So that comes out of, how do we make up that money?
It comes out of the reserves.
The reserves.
Yeah, so for example, we're projecting $18 million ending fund balance. And if we don't use any of that money to cover next year's budget, right, that money literally sits in a reserve account in our system. And so as these things happen, like the state pulling back $1 million from our FEFP budget because we don't meet the FTE projection, the budget gets reduced from that reserve account. Same with the DAOF admin fee. When they have a decrease and we got to decrease our budget due to that, we hit that reserve account.
Do we get interest on that $18 million?
Yes, we do. While we have it in our account, we get the interest on it.
Also, about a week ago, the governor said that, he's just put so much more money into teacher education, or teachers. Was that already in our budget? Is that new money that we've already did our contract with our teachers based on information we had at the time? Is this new information, or did we base our contracts on the information?
Yeah, so, the governor's been appropriating money for teacher salary increases. I think this is the 4th or 5th year. So I think in that article, from what I saw, he had quoted like $200+ billion
Yes.
or something, right? It was a large number. So over the course of those 5 years, yes, that is accurate. In the current year, or for next year's budget, he had appropriated an additional like $202 million. So Hendry's portion of that was $835,000, and that is what was invested into the HCEA contract that is coming to the board tonight.
Thank you. Other questions?
Just go a little bit back, standing here in front of us, knowing you're leaving.
I mean, technically I'm already gone, so no. But I do love talking about the budget, so.
God, you do.
And if you guys do not have any other questions for me, I am going to excuse myself, so.
Great.
We're on contract now.
All right.
Thank you very much for your service.
Yes.
Oh,
All right, moving on.
If any of you want to leave at this point, you can stay the whole meeting, but you certainly don't have to.
Thank you. Good to see you guys.
Don't worry about us, Sarah, we'll be all right.
Oscar, it was nice seeing you.
it's a pleasure.
You gave this to my presentation.
Well, you did a good presentation. All right, moving on. Moving on to the Consent agenda. Oops, my bad. Citizens' comments.
Do not have any at this time.
Moving on. Consent agenda. A through X. Any board members have any?
I make a motion.
Can I recommend first? Right? Isn't that what I'm?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Listen, I'm new to this, so stop me if I'm wrong. I recommend your favorable approval of the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on any of the consent agenda items? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of accepting the consent agenda as recommended by our Assistant Superintendent, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Consent agenda is approved. Moving on to action items. Action item 1. New personnel allocation request. We have a recommendation.
I recommend your favorable approval for the new personnel allocation requests as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All in favor of the new personnel allocation request, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item. Director and administrative reappointments.
I recommend your favorable approval of the director and administrative reappointments as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion?
I do have some comments. It's challenging for me. I've been asking publicly since April 14th for some data. I know that our district got data from FAST about a week after school out, so we have it in hand. But to provide some kind of data-backed reassurance that we're making the right decisions in approving these positions. So basically, all I can really go on for, I like to have that information in hand, so I feel like I am doing my job to make an informed decision. I'm having to go on trust. I'm naturally skeptical, but I was told at last meeting we were going to have a presentation this meeting with that data to show our student outcomes. And every person on this list has a job, and the ultimate goal of the district is to improve and move those student outcomes in a positive manner. So I will support the recommendation tonight, but I'm telling it's with hesitance because I feel like I'm flying blind on this one, and I have to trust, and trust is not my strong point. I have a second concern, and that is, I'm making enough rounds in the statewide education arena to know how challenging it is to find highly qualified financial leaders for districts. It is not something that is uncommon to, it's a struggle for a lot of districts, particularly ours, but we're paying up of $124,000 for a CFO. As a part of my approval, I know he's top on the list for administration, the new Ms. Cox's replacement. I also understand there isn't a strong accounting background or a finance, no government finance. And so I really want to keep as a board, an eye on how this is going. We've had two previous CFOs that, one did have governmental experience, and we got into some challenging waters, but, not for the, just for not even for a punitive sake of being punitive, but for the sake of providing support for this person as they're learning this position.
So for your first comment, we are waiting until we have the final state data, and we will compile that, and it will be presented as soon as possible. For your second, we do have Ms. Cox on a retainer, but a contract for help and support to support Mr. Adams in his learning process of the entire thing. So I know that at least the past few weeks, she's been here a day or two each week to help.
And I'm not picking on him,
No.
we've just had some like professional trauma
Yes.
with past too, and it was rough.
Yes.
And Ms. Cox has spoke at length about digging out of the holes that were there, and I don't want him to fall into a hole. I want to have that catch mechanism before he gets to that. I want to have support to prevent that, but then have a mechanism to evaluate how well it's going. And
I have to agree with that, because before Ms. Cox came, we had so many audit exceptions in our budget.
mess.
It was awful. And with Ms. Cox come, our last audit review was perfect. And now I appreciate her staying on as a contract person to assist us with that. But it still bears the question, as the person we're hiring for that position, their background. Are we gonna be able to do that? Are we gonna continue with Ms. Cox for years to come?
Not for years, because I have complete faith that Mr. Adams is very capable of the detail-oriented person that he is, will do this. But we will keep you apprised along the process.
We need statutorial.
Yes, ma'am.
Deep attention to detail.
Yes,
And,
ma'am.
that last one was for a big government entity.
Yes, understood.
If I get some help from my trust issues
Yes,
on that.
ma'am. Got it.
I believe Ms. Cox has left us a good blueprint.
I agree.
Yes, do so.
She has.
She has.
And it's a great blueprint for Mr. Adams to jump off of, and I believe
I think he'll be
just
okay.
fine. Yes.
I really hope so.
Yep.
All right, well, we have a motion and a second for the motion on director and administrator reappointments. So I call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, the next one is item C. I think we'll table that until our next meeting, since we won't have a quorum to vote on that. And we'll go on to HCA collective bargaining agreement.
I recommend your favorable approval of the HCEA bargaining agreement as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Further questions, discussion? Yeah, I have no one here from HCEA. I always like to hear from them and hear their position on it, but since they are not here,
It was so happy to get it. It was so happy to get it, so they said, y'all.
yeah, well, yeah, there's.
Like a 97% approval rate.
It was
That's right.
97%.
That's right.
Yes, I was the lead negotiator on that, and I believe that we came to a fantastic, agreement.
Nice supervised.
Oh, good.
Yes, Mrs. Houston was participating in the background, listening very intently. We work very well with our union, and our great relationship with them, it enables us to really come to great agreement on what we need and what we need to do. So I know it was well received.
Good. All right, here, we have a motion and a second. No further discussion. Call the question. All in favor of item D, HCEA collective bargaining agreement for the 24 through 27 year, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to item E, HESPA collective bargaining agreements for 24-25.
I recommend your favorable approval for the HESPA bargaining agreement as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? Well, hearing none, no representative here. Call the question. All in favor of the HESPA collective bargaining agreement for fiscal year 24-25, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Item F, execution of the final order regarding an expulsion hearing held on 5/7/CM.
I recommend your favorable approval of the execution of the final order regarding the expulsion hearing held on 5/7 regarding CM.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All in favor of the execution of final order expulsion hearing on 5/7 for CM, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Item G, execution of final order regarding expulsion hearing held on 5/7 for J.E.
I recommend your favorable approval of the execution of the final order regarding the expulsion hearing held on 5/7 for J.E.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of the execution of final order regarding expulsion hearing on 5/7 for J.E., say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. Item H, hearing adoption of middle school social studies curriculum.
I recommend your favorable approval of the adoption of the middle school social studies curriculum as presented.
You have to open the hearing first.
Oh, okay, I think, sorry.
Oh, it's a hearing,
The
yes.
chair.
Sure. I'm opening up the hearing for the adoption of the middle school social studies curriculum. I guess you've been, anything.
Ask if anybody wants to speak to it.
Anybody in the community want to speak to the adoption of the middle school social studies curriculum? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing.
Sorry for being aggressively helpful.
No, that's fine. You've done this. That's great. All right. Now let's make the she made the motion.
Okay, now I recommend your favorable approval of the adoption of the middle school social studies curriculum as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the adoption of the middle school social studies curriculum, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. All right. Aye. Hearing proposed rule development volume 24, number 2, November 2023 through June 18th, 2024. Oh, it's another hearing. So, opening it up to the community. Anyone want to speak on the hearing for the proposed development, volume 24, number 2? Hearing none, I'll close the hearing.
I recommend your favorable approval of the adoption of the proposed policy revisions as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All in favor of the proposed rule development, volume 24, number 2, through November 23 through June 4th, 18th of the 24, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Or the hearing. All right, moving on to old business. We have old business. All right. How about attorney updates? Oh, there's no attorney. I thought she was on the phone and made you there. All right. She is on the phone.
She is. I didn't think she was coming at all. I apologize, Madison.
Madison, we have any updates from you?
She might be changing.
I was just gonna say, she's probably
Baby's getting big.
dealing with the baby.
All right. Well, hearing none from our attorney, we'll move on to board member business.
Oh, she's calling, hold on.
Oh, wait.
She has no updates. She was trying to unmute herself and it seems like nobody was hearing herself.
All right, we'll go down to board member business. I guess what's our Ms. Busen?
Okay, Mr. Sanchez. So, did you get my email today? I sent you an email today, following up on the question I had from last meeting. We had $450,151 in payments to Florida Southwestern State College for our collegiate dual enrollment. And the question I asked last time, and I sent you an email today, queuing you up to answer, is how many credits did that pay for, and how many of those credits were passed? Please.
So we had over 400 credits. successful completion rate was 94-95% at Lewiston High School for this past school year, and about 91% at Elizabeth High School. So when you look at the combined rate, it was well over 90% combined.
Okay, thank you. And then, I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting asked a lot of questions. The balanced school calendar, that failed to proceed, correct? So we're not even looking at that.
We are still going to have discussions around it, but as far as pushing forward for 25, 26, it will probably not. There was enough favorable to have discussion around it coming up in the future months, but it is not something that we are.
Do it on a larger scale, and they have some schools that kind of reflect our socioeconomic situation here, and so I'd like to, before you go and disrupt an ag community's life, I would like to see how it's playing out in a different area. What about delayed school start times? Is that, I know it's not necessary for this year, but are we gonna go ahead and make that jump for the secondary delayed school start times, or
Not
not for this year? Okay. That's another one I was getting. And in my circle back folder, just, and to speak to what you said about a presentation, the state's gonna release that information before we have our next school board meeting. So all of that information on student outcomes will be available on the DOE website on June 30th.
Praying it comes out like in the next week. They sort of said that, but it is the state. So, we're waiting patiently, but they did say by the end of June, and that would be next Friday.
Yeah.
So
I know that they're gonna be looking at grades, which I think school grades are wildly misleading, but those should be coming out in July. So looking forward to see how the state grades us. But with that concludes my board member comment.
So I'm just having Sunday school class, Sunday school that okay?
yes,
Okay.
yes, and next week is the last week of it. But
And
except
you
for
let
VP
me
Day.
know. I'll say that's what it takes. That's all I have.
All right, moving on. So maybe Mr. Busen give us an update on how the pre-K pro building is coming? Are we moving right along on schedule?
We'll be open for our kids coming August 12th. We're moving along like herd of turtles in some areas, but we're doing very good in a bunch of different other areas.
I mean, I walked through it, it looks like it's moving along, so.
We have ACs in every classroom. I mean, there's speed bumps here, but we're gonna come to the speed bumps and be ready to rock and roll. Miss Rhymes, our principal, has been walking through. She walked through with her parents today. Dr. Stadium, myself, and Miss Rhymes walked through today. I said, there probably won't be too many things that you see differently from the last time you walked through, and they were just throwing stuff. Oh, this wasn't like this. Well, this wasn't like that. So it'll be open by August 12th, and we'll be having, I think we're moving teachers' things in after the July 4th weekend. I believe that July 8th, we're gonna start moving everybody in. Who's side with ceiling tile. I mean, I could go down an exact list of what everything that I know of, but it's moving along.
Great.
Mr. Busen is being humble, but the transformation over there is incredible.
Yes.
It is.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, me too.
Thank
It's
you.
a great place for.
Thank you, Mr. Busen. So, and I get a lot of my stuff from the news. And one of the governor vetoed something that I was sort of surprised to even hear on. It was feminine hygiene products in the schools. The motion was that schools would provide them, and that was vetoed. Obviously, we're in a poor community. Do we have that product available for girls in our schools, in our high school or elementary school? I mean, sometimes there's a sudden change in their life, and those things are necessary. Do we provide it? Who
Yes,
tells me?
Yes, sir, we do.
At every school?
Every school, everyone who needs it, every nurse has the capability and availability.
Well, that's what I was hoping, regardless what the governor thought.
Yes. Yeah, we have been for many years.
Well, that's what I thought, but then I heard that, I thought, I didn't realize it was a budget item, I thought we just did that.
We do.
Yes, all right, that's it for me.
And I have nothing.
All right,
So we are good.
we are good. Then I'm going to end the meeting. I got hit.
Yeah.
Meetings.